All right.
on the BLC field school website.
Bureau, no. Business school? No.
Buildings, landscapes, and cultures.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
And then really for benefits, no benefits to you.
Oh, wow.
I'm not gonna
get rich from this. Okay, then.
But it really does, it tells the story of the neighborhood, and what kind of you'll read in here is it tells sort of the other side of maybe what the media reports as. So that's really what we're here to do. So that's really the benefit, is shedding a light on what's really in the neighborhood.
Right. And that's what Camille said to me, and that's what I think is really important.
Yeah. And then the only other thing for that I would like to just mention as well, and you'll see there's kind of like a little part in here that says instructions. So at any time, if you don't want to continue the interview, or if you want something redacted, or not mentioned, like we can hit pause and not record, and we can have a conversation or anything like that. And then at any time, you're also welcome to call up. There's a phone number in here. You'll get a copy of this, and then you can always say, hey, please don't use my interview or anything like that. So if there's anything in here that you can specify, so you have the right to take back anything that you want at any time.
Right.
So I will give you a copy of this if you can look it over. Again, I'll go over this one more time. I'll go over this one more time on there. What is going on with that?
Hey, I don't know if this is a different one. We usually plug our headphones in, so I will be able to hear it better.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's really weird because I have my headphones too. I think I threw my headphones in there, so.
let's see something. Just want to do that one more time. Hopefully it doesn't.
And then we can, if you want, we can fill this out at the end. And we can sign it. I have to sign it as well, and you'll get a copy. But just on the microphone, I'll go over the same thing, and then I'll ask if you agree.
Yeah.
And then we're good to go. So nothing too crazy.
All right. I took a class with him once.
With a reader?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah, I'm a graduate of UW.
Oh, nice. Very cool. Yay.
And keep going back.
Yeah. Cool.
Before you guys begin, while you're reading that, I'm just gonna take this out and listen to it to make sure it is recording. Right?
All right.
And then I'm gonna ask, so it's Jan, and then how do you say,
Yeah,
what makes
it's
your
house.
home? Yeah.
Right.
And then also, if we have anything that it helps to clarify when we edit, that we can remove some of the background noises if we can't hear you. So it kind of has a dual purpose.
Sure.
And then this will be a little weird also, so it might be different. Only because I won't be saying much, so the acknowledgements in a conversation where I say or anything like that, I will be actually pretty silent. So I'll ask you questions, but you'll see me. Because we want your story. So we don't want my interruptions. So it'll be a little different. I just want to let you know.
Okay.
But other than that, are you I'll start recording. Are we good? Okay. So I'll start, and then I'm just gonna do this little thing that says like, hey, here's who I am. I just have to remember what the address. It was
2761.
61.
North 37th.
Okay. I was like, I just drove here. Okay.
And then we have the barber shop just down the street, and he's been there for I want to say maybe 30 years too. And he's really nice. So like when he comes down the alley, it's beep and wave. And if I'm walking around, he's working on, or his employees are working on people's hair, I wave into the window. So yeah, there's a lot of friendships amongst the neighbors.
So we've been talking a lot about the neighborhood and your network. I'm going to focus on you a little bit more right now. So I'm going to look at your home is beautiful. What makes you proudest about your home and being here? Like what do you enjoy about this area?
Well, they don't make homes like this anymore. So we have the solid wood craftsmen that the Germans built with all the woodwork. I mean, you can't find wood like this anymore. There's no knots in any of the wood. My husband works with wood as a hobby, and I marvel at it. the beveled glass, the stained glass. It's all like gorgeous. The wood floors, the solidness of the house. I mean, we can have a raging storm outside, and this house is like a fortress. And we feel safe in here. I mean, maybe it's because so many of our ancestors have lived here that we feel so safe, but I don't know. There's just a feeling of safety. And even when we're in the yard or on the street, I always feel really safe, like I'm protected, and I don't worry about, I mean, stuff goes on. Yeah, stuff goes on around us. But when I'm in the house, I feel safe. And when I'm in the yard, I feel safe. So.
What do you do to, I guess, kind of take care of the space? To you know, your husband is into woodworking, so what do you do with that? And then I guess what sort of another question you can leeway into is, what is your favorite part about this book? What's what do you enjoy about the space as well?
Well, I have to say we haven't done a whole lot on the inside because we like it in the old-fashioned way. So when we have our great-grandma and grandma's things in the house and my parents' things, and we haven't really moved a lot of that stuff because we enjoy using it, and we just, I guess we like it the old-fashioned way. We did put siding on the outside, and we had to re-roof, of course, and we fenced in the yard. Because of course we've had dogs for years. We've always had a dog, and so the yard is fenced in, and the fence does provide a little more security, I have to say. But other than that, we really haven't, like, we don't have a dishwasher. I don't really feel I need a dishwasher. So some of the things, my sister doesn't have a microwave. She doesn't believe in them. Some of the things that I guess is popular now, my sister and I both feel, it's kind of like overkill, or my sister would say her favorite piece in the house is the stove. That was my great-grandma's and grandma's, and we still use it today. And she recently had a person come in and check just to make sure it was safe, and he was marveling about it because, oh my God, this thing is in perfect condition, and he tuned it up a little bit as you would, I guess. But we enjoy using that stove. We both have clawfoot bathtubs. I love my clawfoot bathtub. There's nothing better than taking a bath in that bathtub. So there's a lot of things that are unique to the oldness of it. The light fixtures, they're all old, but we wouldn't change them. Never change it. Yes, we have added like a security system. So we do have cameras. We do have a security system. So in that way, we've maybe upgraded. But a lot of things are the way they were.
So you enjoy your home and the way it is. Can you tell me, I guess, what would be sort of what would be missing in the community, or what would you ideally like to improve?
Okay.
This is the deep question.
Okay, sure. Because there are things I would love to improve. Mm-hmm. I used to walk the neighborhood. I don't anymore. I used to walk the dogs around the neighborhood. I don't anymore. I stay within the same zip code to take the dog for a walk. So when I go do my errands, the dog will come with me, and part of the errands are going to a neighborhood park to walk the dog. We've been charged by pit bulls way too many times, and I won't take that risk anymore. I like my alderman, and my alderman has an initiative to stop the ownership of pit bulls that are aggressive and on the loose. It's not enough to change it so that it makes me and my dog safe. He's told me, call it in, call me about it, let me know the addresses. I'm not going to. The city needs to turn that around. So until that turns around, I won't be walking anymore. I walk my block by myself. I'll walk the dog by myself on the block because all the neighbors will come out and say hi and we'll talk and what have you. But I won't go up and down the neighborhood anymore with the dog. And I will walk up to my friend's house, but she'll know I'm coming or whatever. I won't take the chance to just walk around the neighborhood in an extended kind of way. And I have to say, I guess, I'm very supportive of the police, the Milwaukee police, but I have to say that's changed too. And I understand why it has. They're on the defensive. But I think policing needs to be improved, and not by the amount of police on the street, but by the way they act. We'll be sitting out on the porch and we'll see 7, 8 bike cops ride up the block. They will never look up and wave. They will never stop and talk. They did that years ago. They used to stop if I would be out gardening. They'd be, riding their bikes up the alley, and they'd stop and they'd talk to us. They don't do that anymore. I think that's really poor community service. And in the past, I've had to call the police because of issues that have affected us. And I have to say, there too, it's really turned me on calling the police. I've been told by the police that I should move. If you don't like this neighborhood, you should move. No, I want this place to be safe for all of us. Not just me, but my neighbors need to be safe too. And I don't think that I should be the one to move. This is my neighborhood, and these are my neighbors. And if there's something that's affecting us that needs to be improved so that we feel more safe, they should be doing what they can to make us feel safe. And so I guess for the negative, that would be what I see most needs change.
I'm gonna kind of go back a little bit because you did mention, since you grew up here, and that shift between the community and the change and integration, and then people moved out, and then and obviously you see what we just talked about, those problems.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about, since you were younger, I'm assuming,
yes,
when you were in the neighborhood? Can you talk about, like, when you were younger, what it was like? What did you do to play? Who did you play with? Can you talk about that?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And maybe what was it like in the integrated neighborhood?
Yeah.
Where did you go? What did you do for fun?
Yeah. So I didn't go to the schools here. Well, I did it for kindergarten. I went to Townsend, actually. But then we moved out, and I went to school out in Menominee Falls. But I would always come here to spend summers with Grandma and Grandpa. And Grandpa was a great gardener. Grandma too. She and her sister actually taught me gardening the way I know it. So we were always out gardening, and the neighbors next door had fabulous roses when I was younger. And we would, I just remember those rose trellises with roses. And Grandma would always be talking with the neighbors about that and sharing recipes and food and stuff. Grandpa had a grape arbor in the backyard, and he grew grapes. And he made wine, and Grandma made jellies. And I just remember playing hours and hours under the grape arbor. That was the most fun. And Grandma would give us plastic containers and old pots and pans, and we would fill with water, and we would play with She let us play with water. She let me scrub her floors because I love to play with water. I guess I still do. But that was great fun. I don't remember a lot of kids in the neighborhood. They were older people in almost all directions from what I remember. So they were kind of like, okay, I have German background, so we would call them like babushkas or something, it's maybe a Russian term, but they were the old grandmotherly types. And I guess when I came to see Grandma and Grandpa or spend time with them, that's who I remember being in all of the houses, was the older grandmas and grandpas type elderly people. And then new people moved in that had children. And actually then I moved back here to take care of Grandma and became full-time back here while I was in college. There was really nice families, African American families, who were raising their boys next door, and those boys would be over here all the time. And my husband was always fixing their bikes and giving them tools and teaching them how to use tools because they were boys and they needed, and they needed space. Our yards were the football field out here, so because the mother, of course, the mother wanted her boys near the home. Going up to Sherman Park was just a little too far to let them go by themselves. And so the 3 yards together made a pretty good football field. And ours was the center yard, so that was where all the tackling went and the mud was. But oh well. Those boys are now grown and I haven't seen them for years. But those are good memories of having the kids grow up while I was in my 20s. I never had children. My husband said, being a teacher, you have enough kids at school. When you come home, no kids. So it was the neighborhood kids and the kids at school that were my kids.
Do you see now, are there a lot of kids in the neighborhood?
And actually, we have 2 kids next door, and there's a couple down at the end of this block, but there aren't that many kids on our block. There were for a while, but again, it's kind of an older neighborhood. Or the block is older. Now, 1 block to the west, there's more kids there. And I guess even 1 block to the east, when I drive that block to get to Center Street, because of the one-way, I've seen recently more kids there. But even over there were not that many kids in the past years. It's kind of a quiet little corner of the world. Nice.
I do have to ask. So you have a lot of pets.
Yes.
It's great. I assume those are your children.
Yes, they are.
Can you tell me about your pets? Can you tell a little story about them?
Sure.
Where did you get them? Were they adopted? Or?
It's all my father's fault because when we were kids, we had a dog. We always had a dog, and we had birds, and I always wanted more. And he said to me, "No, we're having 1 dog and a bird. If you want more animals, when you grow up, you can have as many as you want, but in my house, my rules, whatever." Okay. So Dad, thanks a lot because I made that come true. We don't ever go out and buy an animal, or we never go out in search of an animal. They come to us. I don't understand how it happens really, but it's like the whole dog thing. And that's been every dog previous to this dog that we have right now. Something would happen to a friend and they would need to find a new home for their dog, and we were dogless for the moment, and so we would take it in. Or we found a dog one time on Center Street that had been hit by a car, and that dog became the best dog ever. I don't think she ever was in a house before she came to us. And she had no collar, no shots, no nothing. So there was no identification. And we picked her up and brought her back to health. And that's how we get our animals, I guess. The birds, too. My sister was volunteering at wildlife at the Humane Society years ago. And the ones who'd never got adopted, the birds that nobody would ever adopt, of course, she did. And so for a long time, we had many, many birds because all the featherless, blind, injured birds that were domesticated ended up here. So that's why I guess we have all these animals.
Very cool. I like animals. So that's why I'm a big proponent of adoption as well.
Yeah.
So,
Adoption and spay and neuter.
Yes.
Totally. I mean, I'm like, you spay and neuter everything.
I'm gonna ask so because you said you talked about walking your dog. And I know your radius has kind of decreased of where you go in the neighborhood over time. But can you tell me, just walk through when you walk your dog? Can you describe sights, smells?
Oh yeah.
What? Just put me in that place.
Okay.
Of the neighborhood.
So when I used to walk the dog in the neighborhood, I've retired now from MPS. It's 7 years. Well, and then I was subbing, but I just recently retired from that too. I'm not doing that anymore. Done. For over 40 years for MPS, I'm done. Anyway, I used to love to walk the dog in the early morning time because all the ladies be sitting on the porch and all the ladies would stop and or wave to me and tell me have a good day, and I would stop and talk about their garden, and they would talk about the crazy dog that I was walking, whichever one it was at the time. And every house in this neighborhood is different. And so looking at the architecture is just fabulous because, okay, mine is, at a different roof line than the other duplex next door. And the bungalows across the street are different from the bungalows over on the couple blocks away. And then walking in the fall, the trees. We have maple trees on our block, but the next block has the honey locust, and the next block has an elm, or, it's just amazing. And then the leaves fall at different times, and they're different colors at different times. So it was just a whole lot of fun to just walk and see. I mean, there was a lot of planning that took place when these neighborhoods were developed, as far as which trees to plant so that you didn't have disease transferred from one block to the next, and to have the variety of architecture in the neighborhood. I mean, and these were German craftsmen mostly. I mean, I'm sure there were other European craftsmen at the time that were building back. Our house is 101 years old now. So that was like 100, in 1917, our house was built. So when that was and before that, it was a farm, because we have pictures. My grandma has some pictures. I don't know if I can find them ever again, but of the pasture with cows over here on 36th Street. But just to see all that, and then how they set the houses, like our house is placed in such a way that when we look out our windows, we're not looking always directly right into the neighbor's house. So there's a little bit of privacy the way the house is set on the lot. And that must have been thought out, I think. I don't think it was just happenstance, but it's kind of cool the way that it is, So yeah, the smells and just really neighborly. And even today, like if I stop at the nail bar to put books in the book drop, no matter what time, I only stop when there's not a lot of cars, because there's a restaurant right next door. And I have stopped to get sandwiches there, or I'll put books in the book drop and go in and get a sandwich from his restaurant. People always talk to me when I stop and put books in. And I am not afraid there either. About a week ago, I was putting some books in, and a man had come out of the restaurant, and he said, "Oh, do you have some books for a little girl? I have a little girl that she's just learning to read." And so we went through the books and pulled out a few that would be good for him. And he was like, "Oh, thanks," And another time, a man was walking down the block while I was putting books in, and he said, "Do you ever find such and such type books?" And I was like, "No, I haven't really, but I'll keep my eyes open," because I go to the public library when they have their 2-for-1 book sale, which is coming up this Saturday, and I can get hundreds of books for $20-$30, and I put them in the book, in that book box. And so they're friendly, people you don't even know, they're friendly to you. And it doesn't matter who they are, or if they're just passing through, they're friendly. When the can man walks through and is picking up trash and stuff, if it's a hot day, I'll often run out with a bottle of water and say, "Hey, you want some water?" And he's always friendly. The garbage men, they're another one. They love this block because our alley is pristine. My neighbors and I are very proud of the fact that it's pristine. And so when the garbage men come, which they will be here tomorrow around 7:30, and you could see this happen, the neighbors will come out, and we kind of follow the truck down the block, and we help them put in the things that they won't pick up. So there might be some stuff laying to be thrown into the trash, but the garbage men will only empty the bins and maybe take 1 or 2 things sitting next to it. So we'll come out with our gloves on, and we'll say, "Do you mind if we pick up? Do you mind if I throw this in?" And they always say, "No, that's okay." And so by the time they're through our alley's picked up, all the bins are back where they're supposed to be, and we're ready for another week of cleaning. I know, it's crazy, yeah, but that's the way.
I kind of have one last, I guess, question.
Okay.
So this is going to be sort of the thought provoker,
Okay.
maybe, because
Yeah.
you already talked about the improvements. But do you do anything? So you were a teacher for a very long time, and I see that you still kind of have that by trying to get books and do all that. So I guess how do you feel like you empower the neighborhood? Do you, your neighbors? I mean, even the people that are streets down. That, from my personal feel, since we went into some of the vacant houses, the street is a little different. It seems a little bit more, since I think it's maybe renter based.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more of a turnover.
Yeah.
So I guess how do you deal with that, or how do you feel
Yeah.
living here and knowing that that's still part of your neighborhood?
Yeah, I think that we, my husband and I and my sister, are really important to the balance of the neighborhood. I think that people who have moved in, that maybe at first they thought, hey, these people need to leave. I've had neighbors who have moved in, they were renters, say, this is a ghetto, you need to get out. You don't belong here. And I've told those people, no, this is my neighborhood. You just moved in, and maybe you don't belong here. I go to my the community neighborhood groups. So we have a small group that meets over at Hadley Terrace, which is the senior living over on 35th and Hadley, and we meet there once a month. I'm oftentimes the only white person there. And I think it's important that there's diversity, that it's not a black neighborhood and a white neighborhood. I don't, and so much of what's happened in these last couple of years, I totally don't get how we haven't gotten farther along on the spectrum of living in unity and diversity, and differences are fine, and why we can't, again, like Rodney King said, why can't we all get along? Why can't we all live together? I mean, I don't understand why we still are having problems that we had back in the 60s, that when I was a young girl was fighting for this equality and women's rights, and it's fine for me to live here. Why isn't it fine for me to live here? Kind of thing. I thought we came further than we did, and it seems like we've taken so many steps back. And I guess I'm not willing to give up, and neither is my sister. I think my husband, he'd be out of here in a second if it wasn't for the roots that we have, and for the fact that we both believe that, hey, this is our neighborhood, this is where we belong. And you know what? If you don't like it, if you neighbors that are moving in aren't comfortable with it, I guess you need to move on, because we're staying here. And I think our neighbors, maybe some of them have moved in and been uneasy with the fact that, oh, there's white people across the street. But I think they come to know that, hey, we're just like you. I go outside with my bathrobe on just like he goes outside with his bathrobe on. What's the difference? We're neighbors, I hear you coming and going with your cars and stuff. It doesn't matter. You hear me coming and going with my cars, or my stupid dog is barking and is irritating. I'm sorry, but then I hear your party next door, and that's okay. We're all neighbors, and why can't we get along? And why does one group have to feel pushed out or not welcome? Stuff has to change. And I guess that's why I'm staying. I'm not leaving right now. It'll take a little bit more than, we've had bullets shot at our house. It'll take a little bit more than bullets shot at our house to get us out of here. So.
Can you tell
Yeah.
us? I'm intrigued by that story. Do you mind telling me?
Yeah, that
about
happened
it, or
one
what-
summer.
What happened?
We had some pretty rough stuff going on, some pretty rough people. And one night, they shot up the house. And we were in it. And it was scary. And the cops were here. The cops came. And it was clear that our house was targeted, because although there were some stray bullets that went both houses next door, ours got the most. And Yeah, that was not a good summer. That was a few summers ago.
Can I ask, just make it a little more of a positive? How did the community feel after that?
Well, I
how
think
did
I think our neighbors were appalled and were like they couldn't believe that this could possibly happen to this quiet house that, I mean, we don't bother anybody. I'm not aggressive with anybody, and neither is my husband or my sister. But yeah, and we never really figured out. We have an inkling as to who it was, but we never really figured out entirely why or what caused it. But that wasn't the only thing. We had my husband's car was firebombed one day, totaled that thing. And he, again, too, we're not exactly sure why that happened. That was like over 20 years ago, I guess, that happened. That didn't get us out of the neighborhood either.
Yeah, I was just trying to see. So, if, like, did you, because you seem close knit with your neighbors,
Yeah.
and you help out. Did your neighbors?
Oh, yeah, they were calling. They were calling 911, and yeah.
What happened?
They were
like,
calling here to find out if we were okay, because my sister was sitting right there.
Okay. There we go. That's why. Sorry, my button. It didn't look like it was. So okay, continue.
Yeah, so my sister was sitting right on the couch watching TV, and my husband and I were downstairs, and shots rang out that were really close. We were used to shots ringing out often because we went through some periods of time where there was a lot of gunfire. Knock on wood, we haven't had that lately. And we realized the house was hit. And so, I mean, we were all calling 911, and at the same time, the neighbors were calling 911, but then they were also calling our house, trying to get through the lines, to make sure we were okay, and we were calling them to make sure they were okay, because bullets went through in them too, but the worst was us. I mean, it's that stupidity, random gunfire, for whatever reason. I mean, I guess it just happened just recently over on 39th, and that's Todd coming. Over on 39th, 38th, and Locust, where I guess some kids were walking, and now from what I understand is the one kid looked oddly at the other kid, and that kid pulled out a gun and shot at him. And that just happened like 2 weeks ago.
I guess if there's anything else, I can think we can wrap it up. But if there's any other things, if there's anything else,
No,
you
I
wanted
think
to
we
say,
covered a lot of the good, the
yeah,
bad, the ugly.
Yeah, I try to do the positive stuff,
I know.
like I said, on so how your neighbors came together and
Yeah.
you guys banded together and helped each other
Yeah.
out after that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of good. It's just, there's things too that are like, other people wouldn't put up with it. And maybe too, other people wouldn't put up with it if they were raising children here and were in fear for their children's lives. But we don't have kids. We're grown-ups. And we should be able to deal with some of this stuff in a positive way and make a positive change. So I guess even those things, they haven't scared us off.
Awesome. Well, thank you for
You're welcome.
allowing us to come into your home and sit down and have a conversation.
You're welcome.
I just want to remind you again, so if you have anything that you didn't want out in the open,
Yeah.
or anything like that, there is a phone number in there that you can call and you can contact us.
Yeah.
So 5 years down the road, you're more than welcome to contact us.
Yeah, okay.
We also have a open house, a community open house, if you want to say, every
Okay.
day from, I think Regit said from noon until like 4. It's at the Finney Library.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So if you're ever intrigued at what we're doing or anything like that, feel free to stop
good,
by.
good.
Somebody should be in there. And
That's good.
you can
I'm
always
glad
ask
you're using that
questions,
space.
Talk about whatever you would like. So again, thank you.
You're welcome.
And then,